Quick! Everybody act really surprised. It's a Jeep on my channel. Didn't see that coming. Today on Trash and Treasure Garage, we are doing a maintenance inspection on a 2011 Jeep Grand Cherokee. This one is sitting at about 255,000 miles, and it is rocking proudly the 3.6 Pentastar. The owner says there's nothing in particular wrong with it. They're just getting ready to make a long trip and want to make sure that there's no reason they shouldn't. Well, let's dig in. I noticed when I got in the vehicle that it's got a check engine light on, so let's go ahead and just start there. See what's going on. Let the old Autel do a system scan and see if it points us in any particular direction. I'm not going to really show a whole lot of the inside of this thing because it's not my vehicle and it's got their personal things in it, but it's a Laredo, but it's got pretty much every option. This is actually a really nice Jeep. Got the leather, the sunroof, the auto temp control, the home link, the whole 9 yards. It's interesting. I've noticed with these 3.6 Pentastar vehicles, they either seem to go forever, as in this one's case where we're at 255,000 miles, or they seem to conk out about 100,000 miles with repeated valve train issues. Well, congratulations to this vehicle for being one of the good ones. Alright. Hey, we finally found a module with no codes in it. Oh boy. This thing's got some big feelings. Alright, so 4 codes in the ECM, 1 code in the transmission control, 1 code in ABS, 4 codes for the tire pressure, 2 for the central gateway, 1 for the radio, 1 for the heated seats, and 2 for the TPMS wireless control. Let's just dig into a report real quick here. See what we see. Okay, so we have some stored codes in the ECM. So thermostat rationality. It looked like it was running at a okay temperature, but alright. There's catalyst efficiency bank 1, large evap leak, cooling system performance. Okay, moving on. Transmission control, implausible engine temperature signal received. Okay. Implausible data from ECM, PCM, and the tire pressure, or in the ABS. That's interesting. Tire pressure failures, whatever, I don't really care about that. Central gateway, we've got some complaints about the rear wiper. Satellite region mismatch in the radio. Okay. Front left heater, or seat heater not working. And then we have an active code for the keyless entry battery. Alright, well, nothing really too worrisome here. Although I do have to wonder if we've got issues with the engine coolant temp sensor or the thermostat itself. I may dig in a little bit deeper there before this thing goes on a long road trip. I'm going to start, now that I have these in a report. I saw some of these were stored. I'm going to do a quick erase here. We'll just start with a clean slate. That way we'll see if any of those stored codes actually pop back up. What's our wireless control? This is probably the key fob battery. I think that was like the one active code. Yeah, remote keyless entry battery low. Alright. That's a thing. Alright, let's fire this back up. check engine lights off. It's asking for an oil change. According to this, it's not due for a couple thousand more miles, so my guess is it was serviced and they didn't reset the computer. Not the worst thing. Let's get under the hood, see what we see there. As I walk up here, she's squeaky. All sorts of squeaky. Why are you squeaky? Hey, the hood strut works. Or it's going to fall in a minute and hit me in the head. Knock me out, put me out of my misery. You never know. Alright, so we're very low on coolant. That's neat. And that sucker is just screaming away. You know what's nice about the 3.6 in the Grand Cherokee? I can spread, I don't have the world's biggest hands, to be honest, but I can spread my hand all the way out and stick it between the cooling fan and the front of the engine. There's so much room for activities. Alright, shut this thing down, take some of these covers off and see what I see here. No sooner, see, it just did it again. No sooner did I shut the camera off and walk into the shop than that hood came down like it was trying to decapitate me. Thankfully, you can take the fight right out of these with a little pair of vice grips. People always joke about engineers hating mechanics, but if that's not built-in attempted murder, I don't know what is. Alright, I'm going to start figuring out why it's so squeaky. I'll take this intake, this very, very long air intake tube off. Oh, come on. Can't get that one with a screwdriver? Well, yes, I can. I mean, it might take me twice as long as going to get a socket, but I can definitely get this with a screwdriver. I'll pop this guy off. That way, when I forget to plug that back in later and immediately get a code for intake air temperature being out of range, that's why. You know, take notes. I don't know what's wrong with this thing, so my opinion may change, but man, that was just easy. Okay. Bring in a little closer here for better view. I'm working outside today for a couple of reasons. Don't worry, I didn't forget to pay the bill on my shop or anything, but whoops. Hey, don't leave the remote in your pocket and lean on the bumper. I do that like every other vehicle. And then inevitably you set off the alarm and it scares the heck out of you, which is not really what you need while you're working under the hood. Okay, anyways, I'm working outside because nobody cleaned up my mess. I'm working on that Prius. So, plus it's a nice, bright, sunshiny day here. It's cold, but it feels nice. If you're not from a region where it gets cold, I can't really explain. But there's a cold 30 degrees and there's a warm 30 degrees. And it's a warm 30 degrees today. So I'd like to just get the belt off of this. Get a good look at what the heck's going on in here. This serpentine belt itself looks okay. It's not glazed up or anything. I don't think that's the reason. I'm just going to put that off to the side. Now we're just going to play spin the pulley until we find something that seems like it might be responsible for all that squeaking. Don't think it's the water pump. Don't think it's the power steering. AC seems okay. That tensioner's a maybe. Oh, there it is. I bet it's that guy. I think it's the tensioner, actually. Ah, okay. Let's get my old notebook and start making some notes here on what this thing needs. Alright, so far we have a tensioner pulley and an idler pulley. Yeah, that sucker's definitely. The tensioners, or the idler pulley is actually okay. But it's a little noisy. We'll recommend it. I'm a little concerned that we're quite low on coolant. I don't see an active leak anywhere. What's the coolant look like in the radiator? Are we at least full here? Low in the overflow is one thing, but could be more full. She mentioned that sometimes she had issues with the heat. It just kind of makes a guy wonder. Just kind of generally looking around at the condition of things here, I don't see anything jumping out at me. This would be a great time to check the air filter since we're right here. Looks great from the clean side. Oh, I'm not going to recommend it. It's a little dirty, but that's still got time. We'll give it a quick, there, restored. So when you're inspecting older vehicles like this, you kind of have to pick and choose. Now, I'm not going to write a book on this thing and tell the owner, oh, you need absolutely everything. They know very well that they're driving a 2011 Grand Cherokee with 250,000 miles on it. We just want to make sure that it's safe and we don't see anything getting ready to go bang. Our engine oil is full and clean. That's good. Throttle body, we can see that here. Throttle body is nice and clean. And this thing has clearly been pretty well taken care of. While we're right here, it seemed like it was running fine, but while we're right here, let's just at least pull one plug just to get a understanding of where those are as far as maintenance goes. All right, so we got a 10 millimeter to take the coil pack off. Come on, out with you. We all know I own power tools, right? I don't know why I like doing things by hand so much. There we go. Nice tight seal. It's quite a pop as it let loose. Alright, coil off to the side. This engine's fairly cool. You do, of course, have to be careful pulling plugs on aluminum heads. I guess I could finish that sentence. You want to be careful pulling plugs on aluminum heads if the engine, in particular, is hot, because if you're too aggressive about it, you can strip the threads out of the cylinder head, and that's not going to be a good day for anybody. Okay, here's a plug. So, it's got some miles on it, but it looks pretty healthy. Let's see what kind it is. It is a Mopar branded Champion. So, you know what that tells me is somebody was taking this thing to the dealership for its tune-ups. That's always a good sign. Yeah, actually, the more I look at that, that's a wicked gap. Yeah, look at that gap. This could use a set of plugs. That would be very good for it before a long trip. Put this back in for now. Move on and look it over, and I'll put it on the list. You know what's not fun to do on these? Spark plugs on the driver's side. No, it's not the end of the world, but you do have to take the plenum off. Take the plenum off. It's a bad deal, but all I'm saying is it's still 4.0, okay? 4.0, you got number one plug, slightly Wi-Fi, AC. Once you work your way past that, there's just a couple wires, supposed to attach outside. This thing's just like to start over. I think the other parents taking that off, so I gotta get my days in. Okay. As far as looking around under here, there's really nothing else that jumps out. I see the clamp is different on the radiator hose, on the lower hose. I'm assuming either that hose was changed at some point, and the hose looks good, so I'm assuming that. Nothing else I'm assuming. I'm assuming that hose was changed at some point. But generally looking around, I don't see anything leaking. I don't see anything else out of place. I mean, if we get away with just that tensioner pulley and that quiets things down, that's not a bad start. I think the next thing I want to do is pressure test this cooling system, though, and see if I see coolant going somewhere, because I really don't like that low coolant situation. All right, continuing to focus on the positive, this vehicle has a traditional radiator cap, which sure makes life easier when you are pressure testing the cooling system. Come on. This, of course, if your pressure tester will seal on the thing. There we go. All right, so when you're doing a cooling system pressure test, you're going to look at the cap. Now, if you see in the kind of faded writing towards the center there, 18 psi. That means what you don't do is pump it up to 30 psi and then be surprised when something blows up. I'll pump this up to get us right in that. All right, so I landed it at 20. It's like square in the middle of 20. We're just going to let that sit for a little bit here and see whether it holds the pressure, whether it drops off. And it does look like it's starting to drop off, which would explain some things, like it being low on coolant. I don't see it coming from anywhere right now, but I'm going to get the light on here and we'll look around and see what we can see. Oh, yeah, sure enough. Looks like it's just coming out of that lower hose. The one with the new clamp on it. So with that thing pumped all the way up, see those drippy drips? Well, it's coming from the back side of that lower hose. So we're going to put that on the list. Take that hose off and take a look at that connection there and see why it is leaking coolant. But of all the things that could cause a coolant leak, a super easy to reach hose like that is like winning the lottery. So far, we're not looking too bad for all the years and miles here. Well, the sun disappeared behind the clouds and that warm 30 became a cold 30, and so here we are in the shop. I have it up on the hoist. Let's take a look. I'd like to just start by walking around the underside and just seeing what I can see. Now, the visual on the tires will tell you a lot. All right, so nice looking tread, worn what appears to be fairly evenly. We will measure that. But you know right away, if you look and it's got the insides all ground down to nothing and the cords are showing, you know that you've got suspension stuff to look for. Our tie rod ends, you know, it's got a boot on it. It looks older. We're slinging a little bit of grease out of that CV shaft. Looking up at the strut, I don't see anything leaking. Upper ball joint looks like it's all sitting where it should be. I do see a problem right here, though. Let's come around to the other side. That's our inner tie rod end. That is, that boot is completely destroyed. So it could use tie rod, inner tie rod ends, which is going to quickly turn into inner and outer. So by the time you're taking it apart and fighting with it, why would you send it off to an alignment shop with a couple of older tie rod ends on it? Okay. Let's look up at our differential. I don't see Here's your output seal is going to be right there in that seam. I don't see anything leaking there. But it looks okay on the axle shaft on the inside. Moving over to the passenger side, same thing. No leak at the output shaft. Inner boot looks okay. As I move around and look at this wheel, that does not appear to be leaking any grease. Strut looks like it's okay from here. We'll check all this better as we go, but moving around to the tie rod end, outer looks like everything's in shape, but this may not show up well on camera, but that boot on that inner is smoked. We've got a nice dry bottom of the engine. I always love these 3.6 oil pans. They're so cute. It's rusty though, but it's solid. It'll take you a whole 10 minutes to change that if it needs to be replaced. Transmission, we got a little bit of weeping around that line, but nothing to be concerned with. Then we have a plastic skid plate that does absolutely nothing but make it impossible to see. But looking beyond it here, things look nice and dry. Transfer case is dry. Nothing to worry about. Maybe a slight tiny little bit of weeping there, but we're not trying to write a book on a 250,000 mile Jeep. Exhaust looks good. I don't see any evidence of corrosion or leaking or anything. Just kind of following this around, get to our rear diff. Nice and dry there. Same thing here. Nothing to note from a visual inspection. No, it's all looking really good. One thing that you really need to watch for in Michigan is rust. We've got definitely more than 0, but I don't see, there's no holes in anything. There's nothing to, you can start picking at stuff, but it's not going to last forever. But it looks pretty good for now. The pinch weld it's present. Well, a Michigan vehicle that's got more than like 10 years on it, you're on borrowed time with any of this. This looks just fine. And that's probably a testament to it's been taken decent care of its whole life. Move around to the back side of the rear suspension here. All right, I'm looking at the passenger side rear. I don't see anything leaking on the shock. Again, all of this is pretty solid. It's rusty, but it's solid. Yeah, I'm gonna say this all looks all right. Sway bar bushings are there, present and accounted for. And looking at the back side of the rear diff, no concern there. I see a drain plug on it. Looks neat. I don't know a whole ton about these newer Jeeps. I'm more of an old Jeep guy. There's the fill. Oh, and that's got a ZF. I did not know ZF was making diffs for these. Learn something new every day. It's always been either Chrysler or Dana, as far as I know. All right, let's talk tires real quick. It's important to pay attention to the age of a tire when you're looking at it. If you look on the sidewall, you're going to see this dot, Department of Transportation, followed by a series of numbers. The last one, 3522. That means this tire was made the 35th week of 2022. So that means that these tires are about 3 years old, right? Because we just got into 2026. So I can see, looking at it, it's got plenty of tread. Next thing I'm going to do is measure the depth so we know exactly how much life is left in these tires. All right, so this tool right here is a tread depth gauge. You can pick these up for a couple of bucks at any auto parts store. What we want to do is get this between the tread. Make sure you're not sitting on a wear bar. Wear bars are little raised spots in there. And see what number we have. And so these tires are at 930 seconds. Brand new, they were probably 11 or 12. It's a Michelin Defender LTX. That's a really, really good street highway tire that also happens to do very well in the snow. These are fantastic tires. The price of things these days, they probably are worth almost as much as the vehicle they're bolted to, but good on this person for having these tires on this vehicle. Combined with the all-wheel drive, this is a very, very good setup for a Michigan winter. So rock on. One of the next things I want to do here, though, is we're going to check different areas of the tread, and that's going to give us a clue as to our alignment. So we're actually looking at more like 8/32 towards the outside. And back to 9 on the inside. So that could have just been exactly where I set it down here too. Let's try another measurement there. It's more like 8 on the outside. So these are wearing just a little bit more towards the outside edge. Let's see what the front end looks like and see if we've got anything going on with our alignment to be concerned with, or with our front end part wear, rather. I don't have an alignment rack. All right, so here's what we're going to do. All right, so when you turn your tire, it goes left and right. All right, so what connects that tire to the steering rack is the tie rod ends and the tie rods themselves. The tie rod ends can go bad, and when they do, you're going to have some play that you're going to feel if you jack your wheel up off the ground, grab it at 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock, and just try to turn it. Now, I do feel just a little bit of play in here that would tell me we probably have that inner tie rod end that has the ripped boot is probably starting to wear because water and whatnot that's not supposed to be able to get in there is getting in there. Now, if you grab this, however, that does not immediately condemn a tie rod end. I like to next grab it at about 1 and 7 and do the same test. So I do not feel any play at 1 to 7. Same thing at 11 and 5. That's going to tell me a little bit more about, do I have a wheel bearing that's getting loose? Because you'll feel that no matter where you grab the wheel. Last but not least, we want to try and go up and down. That's going to tell us, are the ball joints loose? These ball joints seem fine. So I'll probably do a little bit deeper dive here to see which tie rod end it is, but at the end of the day, if it needs an inner, it's going to get an outer too. Just because of in order to do the inner, you have to take the outer off. If you're taking the outer off, it would be kind of silly to not replace it. Let's get a little bit better view at what is wrong here so you can see why it's a problem to let your tie rod and boots go bad. Okay, this right here is your tie rod. And so our outer tie rod end is here at the wheel. Our inner tie rod end is there at the rack. Here's the boot. Now, with this boot being all ripped up, that boot is supposed to go all the way here. So this is actually the inside of your steering rack. Here's the rest of the boot, just kind of dangling there. So right there, that ball and socket, that's the inner tie rod end. So I'm going to put the phone down, the camera down, and I'm going to shake this again and see, is the play here? Oh, actually I don't have to. I can just kind of rock into it with my arm. I can feel we got play right there in that inner tie rod. So when I say you have to take the outer off to do the inner, from here all the way up to inside where this is screwed into this outer tie rod end is all the inner tie rod end. So I have to unscrew the outer and take this whole thing off in order to replace the inner. So if my outer's got the same miles as the inner, it'd be kind of silly to only replace the inner. You can get a better view too of this split CV boot here that's starting to sling some grease out. This isn't bad, but oh no. As I feel around down here, I can put my thumb inside the CV joint. That's bad. That needs to be done. Alright, I got you in on the passenger side here because this one might be an even better example because it is so much worse than the driver's side. We had just a little bit of play over there. There's all that ball and socket right here. Those are supposed to be clean, right? That's caked with dirt and salt and nastiness in there. So, can you see that on camera? How much play we have there? There you go. All of that movement that you're seeing right there should not be there. That is a very, very bad inner tie rod, and this thing should absolutely not go on a highway trip out of state in that condition. Let's move along and see if we can find some better news. These front brakes look great. They look like they were done at some point in recent past. It's kind of hard to get the camera through the gap in the wheel, but there is a ton of pad left. Those look fine. So here we are about a week later. The Jeep is back. The customer said, go ahead and do it all. I want to make sure it's ready to rock and roll for my trip. So that's what we're getting into today. So let's get into it. I'm just going to learn from last time and start with the mini vice grips because I already know that this thing is going to... See, I went to the gym today. This thing is going to try to decapitate me, and I don't know, that might get some views, but it won't matter to me if I'm decapitated. So first things first. Now, apologies if it's a little bit loud in here. I don't know what the noise canceling is going to cancel, but it's like 15 degrees. This building does not hold heat very well, so I've got the diesel torpedo just over there screaming at the same time that the wood stove off over there is refusing to ignite, because why fail on a 35-degree day if you could fail on a 15-degree day? So anyway, moving on. I think first I want to start with the spark plugs and the cooling system work and the other stuff on the belt drive, simply because I can do that and then test drive it and make sure everything's good. Then we'll do the CV axle and the steering parts, because once those are done, I don't want to drive it except straight to the alignment shop. I'll get it as close as I can, but I don't want to tear up these tires by driving needlessly once that work is done. So that's our plan. Let's get into it. I was talking with a friend the other day who is a mechanic by profession, and we were kind of laughing about these 3.6 liter Pentastars. It seems like you either get one like this that goes 255,000 miles and to the best of my knowledge has never really been opened up and runs great, or you get the ones that are on their third camshaft failure by 80,000 miles, and once you get all that taken care of, they go ahead and they lose an oil cooler, and then you get to tear it all back apart again. So, cheers to having a good one, I guess. All right, so let's start with the easiest thing, since, I'm going to be out here all day, and I might as well pace myself. I get the belt off. And I'm going to take that all the way off because I'm working on the thermostat next, and I'd like to have the belt out of the way for that, because dripping coolant on the belt is something we should avoid when we can. Alright, out you come. 16 millimeter socket to take that tensioner off. Why am I not using my little impact? I don't know. I think I know what I'm doing. You haven't been watching my videos. Remind me that I set that wrench there when I can't find it in a minute, because that's kind of my typical MO. Alright, tensioner off. Can you hear that? Let me hold it right by the microphone. I don't know how well it's picking it up, but it sounds bad, okay? So we've got a new one of those going on. Go find that part in the box of parts here. Alright, there's our nice new Daco pulley. Get these two next to each other. Yep. Looks about right. Figure out what socket I need for this. Alright, so this thing has to be removed from the old one with just a wee bit of violence was all it took. And then this can all go back together like so. Now we're just gonna Impact it on. That's good and tight. That spins nice and smooth. Everybody's happy. Now I get to go inside and pour myself a bourbon. No, I don't. I've still got a long ways to go on this thing. Alright, and just like that, the tensioner has been installed. There's job number 1 off the list. Just gonna double check the torque on this by hand. Alright, good to go. Next up, since we're staring it in the face, just may knock out this thermostat, although I guess it would be smart for me to drain the cooling system first. That lower hose, we had a leak there, and I need to take that apart and look at it and see what's going on with it. Step 1 in draining the cooling system on one of these is playing a game called How Many Clips Can I Break, and how many of these little 10mm bolts that hold in this splash shield. Well, let's already just start by dropping stuff. Can I break on their way out? All right. That was fun and educational for me. Let's see what you can see. Can you see it? No. How about now? Now can you see it? Not yet. Hang on. There it is. See this little red knob right here? There's the petcock. Oh, I got a great view of that lower hose from here too. Okay, all right, Jeep. I forgive you for some of your silly little tricks. So first thing I'm going to do is get this draining. I'd like to save the coolant for now so that I can reuse this old coolant to check for the successful repair of that leak. So we'll put the old coolant in it, pressure test it. If everything looks good, I'll drain it back out and put some new coolant in it. That way I'm not draining new coolant if I don't have the leak on the first shot here. Okay, I've got my clean this dirty bucket. I promise it's cleaner on the inside than you can see on the outside there. There it goes. Well, that's going to pee in that bucket for a while. I'm going to lower it back down and pop the radiator cap off. And I can start work on taking the thermostat out. Get that replaced while it finishes draining, and then we'll get it back up in the air and pull that lower hose. Okay, it's in the process of draining. I'm sure I'm going to spill some coolant, but there's really no avoiding it. Thermostats are very straightforward on these. First, we're going to take this clamp off on the upper hose. Slide it back out of the way. Assuming it will slide out of the way. And have to just go that way with it for now. Then we'll grab this hose itself. Give it a few twists. Oh no, I broke the housing. Don't worry. I have a new housing for it. You know why? Because that happens. And it's almost the same money to buy the housing with the thermostat as it is to just buy the thermostat. So you're kind of better off replacing the whole thing and knowing that you don't have this brittle plastic getting ready to snap on you. After that, just a couple of tents. Got one down here. And one up here. After that, the housing is just held on by rubber gasket. So there's our old thermostat. I don't know if we can see anything wrong with this. I'm curious to. It really doesn't want to come out of there. I don't directly see anything wrong with it, but I know that this thing is running ice cold. So out with the old, in with the new. And very similar to the tensioner, there's actually a tab right here that lines up with a hole on this end. And that is how you know you have it in the right spot. And I'm going to put these in by hand rather than with the impact, just so that's a little bit more gentle process for it. It would not make my day better if I snapped one of these bolts, is what I'm getting at here. And they're just little 10 millimeters, so they're probably M6 threading into brass inserts pressed into plastic, so no reason to go nuts with them. I almost just dropped my ratchet into the bucket of coolant. It's pretty glad I didn't do that. Is there torque spec on those? I don't know. I just made them tight. I located a clamp that fits this. Now the general idea here is we saw how easily that broke. That old housing broke. So what we're going to do is tighten this one up until the housing snaps and then back it off a little. Probably actually about right where I need to be. We'll try that. So looking at this engine, you can see that 3 of the spark plugs are real nice and easy. Right? 1, 2, 3, right there. You call them and they jump out from under the hood, no problem. The other 3, all you have to do is take this intake plenum out of the way and then they're easy to reach. But in order to do that, all you have to do is take this wiper cowl out of the way, and all you have to do that is take the wipers off and then fight with everything else that's under here. So 3 plugs, easy. 3 plugs, not so easy. You know, it's the yin and yang of things, I guess. Let's do the easy 3, then fight from there. These coils would just squeeze the connector and pull it off. That's 10 millimeter. The throttle body's in the way a little bit on this last one. If that becomes a problem, I'll just wait till I take it apart to do the others. Nice seal there. This little pop when that came out. Boom. Make sure we put dielectric grease on those so that it's a little bit less married to its home. There we go. There's my last one. Alright, these are just a regular 5/8 spark plug socket. No big deal. So Champion is the OEM spark plug manufacturer for this vehicle. So I'm going back together with a fresh set of Champions. Let me get a good clear shot of these to the camera so you can see my complaint. Right? See the wear on the electrode on this original plug? Now look at the new plug. You can see that the new plug, that electrode is very squared off. On the old one, it has gotten quite thin up here on the business end of things. So these are very worn and very due. So Jeep recommends a 44 thousandths gap on these plugs. So just checking these out of the box. And they are right there. Going back in with no anti-seize as per recommendation. Now when you start the threads on these, very, very careful. They should turn quite easily on their way in. If you start turning a plug like this and it binds, back off, double check things, go have a sandwich, go have a smoke, go have a cold pop, something. Don't mess up your fine threads in your aluminum heads is what I'm getting at here. Now the spark plug torque on these things, which it still, as somebody who did not grow up working on vehicles with aluminum heads, this stuff always gets me. But it's 13 foot-pounds. 13 foot-pounds does not seem to me like it ought to be tight enough for a spark plug to not go shooting out of a cylinder head. But the engineers know better than I do. Okay, torque wrench. "13 foot-pounds. The rubber's in the socket. Heyo. All right. Repeat that for the next two. All right, I knocked out the other couple of plugs off camera. It wasn't that exciting. If you feel like you missed out on something, just go back and watch the one I did a couple extra times. Now I need to figure out what I'm doing here. So these caps pop up. There's step one complete. There's nuts to remove there, then the wiper arms come off. And then it's just a matter of figuring out all of the stuff that has to come off so that this wiper cowl can come out of the way. It looks like it actually might not be that bad. I have a Toyota Avalon that I think I've mentioned a couple of times in different videos, and getting to the back three plugs to tune up on that car is a pretty similar experience, but you don't have half the room under that engine bay that you do in this one. So if I can do that, I can do this, and if I can do it, you can too. I don't know if that has to come off or not. Maybe we don't get the cart ahead of the horse here. I think. Maybe. I don't know. I guess we'll start by taking those wipers off because I know they're in the way. Let's see. What size are you? Are you a 15? Oh man, that was such a good guess. I love it when that happens. Oh, that loosened up almost too easily. That's fine. So, when you're taking wipers off, these things are splined, and they don't necessarily always want to go on exactly how they came off. In most cases, like I'm looking at this Jeep, you could mark this, but they're parallel with the bottom of the glass, so it's not going to be too hard to get it right. Plus, there's a mark where it was sitting. Yeah, that'll just lift off once I get the other one out of the way, which is going to be more fun to reach due to being in the middle of the vehicle. This thing's got a PGW windshield in it. That was replaced at some point. They got the good one. PGW makes good glass. It's not like a Fuyao. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Just PGW is a more expensive brand. All right, how am I going to reach this? It doesn't seem very close to this side, but I don't think it's too close to the other side either. Let's see. Maybe I can grab it from right. Nope. Okay, I wasn't trying to get violent. I'm sorry. And so this one doesn't want to just pop off like the last one. I've got this special tool here that goes around the blade, or the blade, I can talk, the end of the wiper arm, and then we tighten it up so that it grabs up underneath that flange, which is real fun to do with one hand. Now once we're tight on there, tighten this on the top, and it's just going to pull this straight back, straight up and off. I hope. Or maybe it goes bang and hits me in the face. Yeah, I don't think I have that tight enough. This isn't the world's easiest thing to reach either, which is fun. There. That's the bang we were looking for. Yeah. I don't know why you had to be difficult. I tried to tell you. I was difficult as a kid. You know what happened? I wasn't allowed to sit next to my friends in the back of the bus anymore. I sit up front by the bus driver, watch them shift gears and hate their life. There you go. Alright, so let's see what it takes to get this off. As with everything, I'll remind you again, thread your fasteners back in where you can. That way I know right where those wiper arm nuts are. No looking for them in a pile of miscellaneous hardware on the floor. Okay, so far we haven't heard any bad crunches yet. That's good. Some snap, crackle, and pops. Alright. Okay. Okay. Getting this thing loose. Give me 5 minutes alone in a room with the engineer who designed this. Please. Not a violent guy, but that was ridiculous. Okay, moving along. Moving along. I understand why there's a shortage of mechanics. Change 3 spark plugs. That's fine. That shouldn't take you but a couple hours. Oh, at least I don't have to keep going that way to get to the oil cooler. Alright, this shouldn't be... Oh boy, I almost said this shouldn't be too bad from here. It's like I don't learn as I go. You never know. This thing may have all sorts of fun in store for me. It beats me. Let's just change the plugs and go on to forgetting about this whole thing as soon as I can. Get this guy out of here. They put that foam in there so that it can drop debris straight down into the intake as you remove it. That's a feature. Let's get all of these coils unplugged. Of course, this wiring is like real nice and brittle. Please don't break. Okay. Gently, gently, gently. Let's get... Hey, what just fell? I don't know. Hopefully it wasn't important. Let's get these 10 millimeters out that hold the coils in. Yeah, I'm curious to see. Are these plugs going to be the same age as the other ones? Or at some point, did somebody just do the easy 3 and call it a tune-up? Why do people like the 4-liter better when, these things make like 80 more horsepower? Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't tell you. Maybe because I could have had the cylinder head off of a 4-liter and the amount of time it takes to do a tune-up on this thing. That plug is far, far worse than anything I saw on the other side. Let's see if I can get you a good view on the camera here. Look at that. It's almost worn into like a U shape. Ugh. So with the intake back on, I'd like to run this thing before I get any further into putting all of the pieces around the engine back on. Before I can run it, I need to address this coolant leak right here. You can see it's wet on this clamp, and that's obviously not an original clamp, so I don't know what the situation is. Maybe it got a water pump at some point, and the bottom of the water pump right here. So maybe that's why it has the different clamp on it. I don't know. Maybe it's just loose, but That was actually my main reason for draining it, is I want to take this clamp off and pull this hose off and just get a look at the condition of the hose and the condition of the water pump, rather the nipple on the water pump that the hose slips over. And we don't want all the coolant coming out. So I should probably bring the bucket over here, because sure enough, there's going to be some left in that hose. And I know my luck. If I have the bucket, it'll be a drip. If I don't have the bucket, it'll be a ton. Huh. Well, you couldn't see that on camera, but I got like 86% of that in the bucket. Oh, maybe that's this Jeep's way of saying sorry for all the BS with the intake. I doubt it. It's just waiting for the next thing. That's what these do. I'm just gonna dry this off a little so I can see better what's going on. And there's definitely some... It's not a very smooth surface. So I think what I'm going to do is just go after that with a Scotch-Brite. The inside of the hose itself actually feels fine. It's got a little bit of roughness on it, but I think if I just move the clamp a little bit, I'll be okay. But we want to get that kind of more shiny, sparkly, clean looking, and that will help that hose seal up against it. So common sense prevails with this stuff. Obviously, Scotch-Brite will do a number on aluminum if you're not careful. The green flavor has got the bite to clean it, but just have to be judicious, I suppose, with your application of force with these. Wish I could reach around this thing a little better. That's kind of covered in goo that doesn't want to come off. Well, let's try a little solvent on that. Brake cleaner makes everything better, especially your disposition if you use it in an enclosed space. All of a sudden, your worries are few and everything's fine. You don't really care that the Jeep's fighting you. My camera battery died while I was working on the cooling system. The good news is it went back together with no trouble. I got that put together, pressure tested, test drove the vehicle. Nice hot heat, no more engine temperature bouncing all around when you slow down and speed up. So thermostat was definitely bad, cleared the codes, haven't seen any unhappiness with the computer, so yay. Go me. Nice easy one there, I guess. The tune-up was an absolute pain in the butt. That's all put back together. It's running good, so job done. Time to move on to what I thought would be the challenging part of the job, but probably, well, I don't know. I shouldn't curse it. We haven't gotten into it yet, but I need to do CV axle on this side and inner and outer tie rods on both sides. So let's dig into that. Doesn't that look awesome? That's gonna be fun to take apart. Actually, let's do that first. I want to see what that's gonna be like. Ooh-wee. I did not think that was gonna just give up like that. I thought we were in for a absolute battle royale there. Sweet. Well, let's hope things keep going this way. So, here's the tie rod end. I already know that this is going to come off because I took it off when I first started messing with this to get a little bit better access to things. So, there's that. Outer's out of the way. I need to figure out, can I get this inner out without taking the whole thing apart? It's the tool that I have slides over. I don't know if I have a wrench big enough to just grab that without using the specialty socket. You know, I bet a guy could get a pipe wrench on that. Since I'm replacing all of this anyway, why go through the effort of taking it apart to get the tool on it to remove it? The new one will go on in two pieces, but If I can save a minute right now, I will gladly save a minute. I mean, it's certainly biting on there. Come on, where's this? Just like that. It's kind of pipe shaped. It's fair to use this tool. Oh yeah. Like butter. Man, oh man. It has been so cold today. This pellet stove is just, it's trying. I've been supplementing it as needed with the kerosene torpedo, which does a great job of heating the shop very quickly, but also is very loud, and oh, it stinks. So, do I want to be cold, or do I want to be fumed out? I guess at least if the fumes get me, I'll be warm when I go. That's a thing. Just realized I'm dragging the microphone up against the hub. That probably sounded good. We could just unscrew at this point. You just give me some easy win. No, not gonna. Didn't think so. I had to ask. I don't think I've ever underbid a job, misestimated, like I did this one. That's okay. At least it's for somebody who is a good friend of the family and has always been good to us. So if I'm gonna accidentally shoot a little low, this is the right place to do it. Here's why it failed. There's our steering rack bellows. The rest of it's still in there. There it is. So I've got to get the rest of this off of here, which, the bellow itself is just pulling apart. But of course, the clamp, the end that's clamped down in here, that is like the most solidly put together part of this whole vehicle. Let's see what I can do to extricate that. I think I can just get a screwdriver in here and get to popping this thing loose. Yeah, look at that. Something went to plan. Okay, let's get this moved a little bit here. How about like that? That works. Okay. Here is our new inner tie rod end. So in order to install this, we're going to start it by hand. The tie rod end goes on, and then the boot goes on. Oh, it's nice when they're brand new because you can just grab them by hand and screw them in. And if you see, the grease is already in there from the manufacturer. That's all set, nothing further for us to do there. Now, an inner tie rod end installer tool uses a various sized, these different inserts that just sit here on the threads. Get this guy out of the way. And we have this pipe looking guy that slides all the way over that. Come on. Oh. Now here's the problem. The tie rod is too big for the inner diameter of this, so it barely catches the adapter. The problem is I got to get that in there and torqued. So, trying to figure out what to do next here. Okay, that's been half a second for you and probably 10 minutes for me, but I figured it out. I had to kind of just jam the thing on there, and I got everything to kind of halfway engage and sent it home and got it torqued down, so let's move on. Next is installing the bellows. These things come with the style of clamp that's on it from the factory. Do yourself a favor and leave those right in the box, and just use some hose clamps. You're going to be hating life if you try to install those factory style clamps. There, installed. That boot's sitting right where it goes, or that's sitting right in the detent where it goes on the end there. Next thing I need to do is measure for the rough swing at the alignment. Okay, I got my jam nut on. We're going to start by moving that over to an easier spot. Thread this tie rod end on. Or so I think. Is that going? It's going now. Okay, now that I've got that going, what I'm going to do is measure on the old one. Let me bring you in on that. Alright, so right here on the old one, I want to measure from the end of the jam nut that's closest to the tie rod end. And I say that because the jam nuts I can see are very clearly different widths, different depths, whatever you want to say. From there to the point here where we run out of thread and it starts to become a larger diameter. Yeah, this is not going to be perfect. It's just going to get us to the shop. And that is just about 1 3/4 of an inch. All right, so now I'm going to, in here, go right about to where we run out of threads. And I'm going to set this to about 1 3/4 of an inch, which is actually almost right where I landed the tie rod on, believe it or not. Yeah, right about there. I'll just turn the tie rod on until it bumps into the jam nut. And we're good to get this into the knuckle. Okay, something seems we're a little off here somewhere. Let me double check myself here. I don't have much of an excuse other than to just say, hey, sometimes smart people do dumb things. And maybe I'm jumping to conclusions thinking I'm a smart people, but if you try to put the tie rod in through the top when it's supposed to come up through the bottom, you're going to have a bad day. Nothing's going to line up. It's going to look like you have the wrong parts. You're going to curse and swear and scream off camera. But here's the thing. It's late into the evening. I've been going on this since first thing this morning, and yeah, I've had a few breaks and interruptions and things, but it's late. I'm tired. Things happen. That side's done. I'm going to go knock out the other side, and I'll come back around and see if this hub won't cooperate. It was right at about this point that I went in the house and had dinner, came back out to keep working, and forgot to turn on my microphone. So if you notice, there's a really interesting thing here about replacing the CV axle, and that's that it almost fits through the space that it looks like it should fit through, but it indeed does not. One must unbolt the lower control arm from that strut bracket there and push the lower control arm down with a long pry bar, and you can just kind of sneak the axle through. I think the actual correct process there is to I think if you undo the sway bar links, you can get a little bit more space. But I was able to sneak it through. The job was done. If you notice, I took off the wheel bearing. Man, I'm used to working on the older Jeeps with the straight axles, and taking off the wheel bearing, more correctly called the hub assembly, is the correct process there. So no worries on a old rusty Michigan vehicle, those things just pop right off. It only takes a couple hours of self-reflection and violence and prayer to remove them. So it's not like I wasted a whole bunch of time that I shouldn't have wasted. Actually, that's my way of saying I wasted a lot of time by not reading the directions. So I know it's not really in our nature, guys, but sometimes read the directions more than just the torque specs. You might save yourself a lot of time. I even later went back and saw videos of people not even pulling the brake rotor or anything off. They just undid what absolutely needed to be undone, and then uh, were able to replace that axle a lot faster than I did. So I'll spare you really watching the entire rest of that process. I know this video is getting a little bit long as it is, but I did get the Jeep all back together, no problem. Checked everything twice and then sent it off to the alignment shop. Well, I just got this Jeep back from the alignment shop, got it in the garage, went through it, double checked things, put the new belt on it, and I have to say that it's a pretty smooth running machine, especially for the age and the miles on this vehicle. This is a great old Jeep, and I have no reason to believe it's not going to keep going down the road for quite a while. Especially on a day like today, if you notice the snowflakes flying and the wind whipping through the trees around me here. What a great day for full-time four-wheel drive and heated leather seats, and something that just takes this weather and kind of makes it somewhat of a non-issue as long as you're not driving like an idiot. This is a perfect commuter for the mid-Michigan area here. So let's come back to the question we have to ask about all of these things: is it trash or is it treasure? Well, here's the thing. I think this is a pretty good old Jeep. I just put a very reasonable amount of work into it. Okay, at 255,000 miles, a tune-up, tie rod ends, a CV axle, a thermostat. This is all routine maintenance, right? I don't care what you're driving. It's going to require this amount of work at some point in time. Nothing's immune to maintenance. That said, in general, I have a very hard time recommending these, especially with this 3.6 liter engine, because they seem to be so hit or miss. This one's great. I have several friends who have Jeeps with the 3.6 of similar years or even much newer than this 2011, where they haven't made it to 100,000 miles or even sometimes out of the 36,000 mile bumper to bumper warranty, and they're having issues with noise, and it turns out to be failed rockers or camshaft issues, and they're a pain to work on. You saw what I went through trying to do spark plugs on the driver's side. 3 of the plugs are easy. 3 of the plugs are it's 3 or 4 hours especially if you're stumbling through it your first time like me. And I hope you enjoy watching me. It's kind of fun to discover new things together. I think this vehicle is going to be just fine for a while. If you're looking for something like this, I might look elsewhere, honestly. Share your thoughts on a 2011 Grand Cherokee or really any newer-ish Jeep down in the comments if you would. And while you're doing so, please take a moment to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with your friends. Thanks for watching.